let's go ahead now and move on to the New England Patriots offseason recap. But before we get into that, if you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe and smash that bell so you can get notified when Tyler and I post new content. We are trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the NFL draft, so if you could help us reach that goal, that would be fantastic. And if you're watching this and we've already hit that goal, now we're trying to hit 2,000, so help us reach that one. So, Tyler, let's get into it. Patriots had a really interesting offseason. And to me, it's completely highlighted by this Jakobi Meyers, JuJu Smith-Schuster breakdown. And Jakobi Meyers came in unrestricted free agent, built him up for 4 or 5 seasons. And then they just let him walk to the Raiders for 3 years, $33 million. And then they go sign JuJu Smith-Schuster, almost the exact same player, to a 3-year, $33 million contract. And it's like, I feel like you could have just signed Jakobi Meyers, a guy you already know and like in the building, who's a fan favorite, and done that. And then they haven't really made any big splashes, right? Traded JuJu Smith to the Falcons for a pick 247, and you guys take the cap hit in Atlanta. And it's like, and then a couple re-signings, and it just, I don't know. It's just been an odd offseason for the Patriots because I feel like they had cap space to make bigger moves.
Yeah, you guys are getting depth on the offensive line. Definitely something the Patriots move are, like by adding Riley Reif and Calvin Anderson from the Broncos. Yeah. I do actually I think low-key one I do actually really like is James Robinson signing as well. Damian Harris has gone on to the Bills, and I think him and Ramondre Stevenson now I think can kind of be that 1-2 running back type tandem by committee that the Patriots really like to do. So in general, yeah, very low-key offseason so far, though, for the Patriots.
Yeah, and let's start off now with the losses. So the big one I kind of already mentioned, Jakobi Meyers moving on from the Patriots to the Raiders. And then JuJu Smith traded to the Falcons. Nelson Aguilar left, went to the Ravens. And then Damian Harris went to the Bills. And that's kind of it. Jake Bailey was cut. That was kind of imminent based off of his end-of-season suspension, went to the Dolphins. But other than that, most of the other free agents have been re-signed, and we'll just kind of transfer over into re-signings and then additions. But Jonathan Jones re-signed. JuJu Smith-Schuster was brought on. Riley Reif, the right tackle, and Calvin Anderson, you already mentioned. I think that's really good tackle depth there.
Yeah.
And then Chris Board, the linebacker, he's a special teamer. He's one of the best special teamers in the league, but that's a complete Bill Belichick signing. And then I also really like the James Robinson one. I think it sets the floor for the running back room, but he's also coming off a torn Achilles, so you have no idea how good he's really going to be. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, if he can come back, I mean, it's very low risk if he can come back and be somewhat of the player that he is and can provide just some veteran depth. But the interesting thing to me is, as you've mentioned, they've replaced everything that they lost, and they're kind of like now added a little bit of depth on the offensive line. I don't know what they're going to do in the draft still. Like, I have no idea. Obviously, it is par for the course for them to trade back. Yeah, but I'm looking at them at that 14th position, and it's like that's like right around the spot where it's like anything can happen. It's like maybe they could take a receiver, maybe someone could trade up, and then it's like there's the butterfly effect on how that's going to affect the draft and where other players fall. Do they want to go with Myles Murphy? Like, was Myles Murphy?
No, I hope not.
Well, like that's what going into the offseason, he was a projected top 10 pick, so maybe there is some potential there. Do they go with another Chattanooga guard? That could be taken in the 3rd round.
I really hope not.
That would be really funny at 14 again. But, well, it'd be even funnier this year because it's at 14. Last year was funny because it was
at 29.
Yeah.
But anyways, to me, I look at all of these signings, and it's just like I immediately go, okay, and right, like, oh, you signed JuJu Smith-Schuster. Okay, great, and what else? And even I like Calvin Anderson. He's an athletic offensive tackle. Riley Reif is 35. I mean, you can see him slowing down on tape by the snap almost. Yeah. And so that's hard to be like really excited for. He's still good, but just not what he was 8-10 years ago. So I look at this draft, and to me, this is a make or break draft for Bill Belichick, especially GM Bill Belichick.
Mm-hmm.
And Nelson Aguilar's gone, Jacoby Myers gone. You did bring in JuJu Smith-Schuster, but this receiving core just lacks something. And you have Mike Gesicki and Hunter Henry. Those are the only 2 tight ends that you really have. So I expect them to dip into the tight end class at some point. But looking at that 14th pick, I have no idea. One of the guys that it makes the most sense because it's an Alabama player, very versatile guy, but Brian Branch, the safety, makes a ton of sense. Devin McCourty just retired. You look at the roster and you're like, okay, that appears to be like the biggest loss of the offseason was Devin McCourty.
Yeah.
But they need a left tackle and they need a star wide receiver. Granted, there's probably not a true star wide receiver in this class, but at 14, I want something to be excited about. I don't want a freaking guard from Chattanooga again. Like that was so frustrating last year, especially because they put themselves in that position by trading Shaq Mason. I don't know. I want something exciting. I want something to get behind, even if it's a trade back to 20 or like in the early 20s, and then you take Anton Harrison and accumulate another second for day 2. It's like, okay, then you can address wide receiver and corner in the second round.
Yeah.
And like that, I can get behind more than Miles Murphy at 14.
Yeah. It just seems all the players that I'm feeling that are going to be there at 14, they just I feel like they're just a stretch. It just always feels like they're a stretch for the Patriots. Now, other teams, like I know I've mocked the Lions trading up and taking Brian Branch, and I like that actually. I think I think he could fit very well into that system and really bolster up that defense because that's just the system in Detroit. But then, as you said, would Brian Branch be great for New England? Yes, but it just doesn't. It just for some reason doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like that. Like that is the move that they're going to do. Nor do they want to do that.
Yeah, and I just like I don't know. It's very vanilla. There's nothing like okay, great. They drafted a safety from Alabama, right? Like I want them to make a big move and do something that's going to help propel them to win this division, which is something that they just haven't done in the last few years. Like they've lacked that true spark on offense, and hopefully Bill O'Brien coming in can fix that. But
to me, the thing, and you had a good point when we did our 7-round mock draft series, is we ended up taking JSN with the 18th pick because the Patriots ended up trading back. But you're right, that now with signing JuJu Smith-Schuster, that was the guy to me. JSN was the guy to me, was like, okay, this would make sense taking him at 14. I think that's fair. I think and see him falling in that range. I think he can come in and contribute immediately and do really well. And maybe they still do that. But you're right, though. They're kind of the same type of player, both that slot role, a little bit bigger slot role receiver. And then I say that I look at the rest of the receiving core. Devontae Parker doesn't excite me. Kendrick Bourne doesn't excite me. Tyquan Thornton doesn't really excite me. So there's not really too much.
Tyquan Thornton excites me in a different way. He's a mystery that like nobody really knows how good he's actually going to be or not.
Oh, okay. I thought you were about to go down a different route. But
no.
Okay. I got you now. Okay.
He only played like 15% of the snaps last year. He had 20 catches for 200 yards and like 2 touchdowns. And he was injured the first 4 games, and then he got on the field and looked really good in one game, then he didn't play the next 6 games. So I don't know. But whoever it is at 14 needs to come in. They need to be a contributor. And if it's a trade back to 20 and then they select Anton Harrison, the left tackle, and then they address the wide receiver and corner on day 2, I'm much more comfortable with that than taking a Brian Branch or a Miles Murphy or kind of I don't want to say a vanilla pick at 14, but just another guy, right? I'd rather take a swing at somebody because you really need – this roster's built out really well in the middle, right? You just don't have anybody that like really elevates it, right? Mm-hmm. And so one guy I'm on the fence about is Jordan Addison, especially if they trade back, because I think he's that inside-outside threat that they really want. He has the play speed when you watch him on tape, and then he's just the most technically sound receiver in this class in terms of being able to run routes on the inside and outside. He has the consistency with his hands, and he's performed well in two complex systems in Pitt and USC. And it's like, I think you look at JSN, he hasn't played in a year. He had a lot of production, but it all came out of the slot when Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson were on the outside. And when they didn't play, he had his best game against Utah in the bowl game. But was it just a fluke? Did he have a really good game? And then you also don't know how he really fares against press coverage and playing on the outside. So there's a lot of questions there with this wide receiver class. But I just want something from this Patriots team that really excites the fan base and gives us something to look forward to, not just another vanilla camp. So
like Lucas Van Ness.
No, God, no, please. He didn't even start in college. I liked Van Ness at the beginning of this process, and the more and more I watched him, I have liked him less and less and less. So yeah, but
I hope they take him now for you, just for you.
He doesn't even have any. Okay, you're going to get me on a tangent here. But he doesn't even have any pass rush moves. He literally just runs into the linemen, and he's just bigger and stronger than everybody. And granted, he did that against Peter Skoronski, and it worked. It worked pretty well. But at the NFL, you're not going to do that to Trent Williams. You're not going to do that to like a starting caliber NFL offensive tackle.
Yeah.
So, anyways, let's go ahead. Oh, you have something else to say?
No, I was going to do what you were going to do. You're doing great.
Okay, sounds good. Let's go ahead and wrap up the New England Patriots offseason recap there. Again, if you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe and leave a comment down below on what you want to see the Patriots do at the 14th overall pick. Should they trade back? Zay Flowers, do you want them to draft another guard from Chattanooga? Let us know down in the comments.